To the Thursday, November 12th, 2020 electronic meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. New language. Sorry, I was supposed to read that. The meeting is being held electronically to protect public health and safety due to the COVID-19 virus and to comply with the orders issued by the governor, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and/or the Washtenaw County Health Department. We intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment will be via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 213-338-8477 and enter meeting ID #963-1311-6330. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on broadcast, and the broadcast of this meeting is on CTN channel 16, AT&T channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. Roll call. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
Commissioner Quijano.
Here.
Commissioner Hall.
Here.
Commissioner Beeson. Commissioner Fortner. Here. Commissioner White. Commissioner Rockland.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Perfect. Are there any thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. Public comment. This is an opportunity for, can I just read all this? Or are we doing this again here? All right, so this is an opportunity. What's that?
You can abridge it, Evan, but now it's
Yeah.
opening the public comment.
Yeah, we're opening the public comment. Please call 213-338-8477 and enter meeting ID #963-1311-6330. Do we have any callers for public comment, Kristen?
No callers have indicated.
No callers, okay. So we'll now move on to E, unfinished business. Seeing none, we'll move on to the hearings. F1. We'll now move to item F1 at 603 East William. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
Give me a moment here while I share my screen with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. .603 East William Street is a two-story brick commercial vernacular building that was constructed in 1915. The original occupant on the first floor was Oren's Cafeteria. It features two storefronts at 601 and 603 and two second floor spaces with two central stairs. The cornice is of stepped brick and the windows are 1/1. In October, staff approved an awning to be mounted in mortar joints over the center doors, and I'll show you a picture of that in a couple of minutes. It's on the north side of East William Street at the northeast corner of Maynard, and the ground level tenant is New York Pizza Depot. The applicant is seeking HCC approval to replace a wood front door and transom. I actually have a correction. I got some more information at the review committee visit. They are seeking to replace a wood front door, but not the transom, with a steel and bulletproof glass door, and install a 36-inch by 72-inch by 1-inch second floor blade sign at the southwest corner of the building. These are the center doors. Each leads up to the second floor tenant. The building's divided down the middle, and this is the door that we'll be looking at today. It's number 603. These doors are not original to the building. I dug up a photo from the 70s that shows a different style of doors with like a half light and two panels, wood panels below. The one on the left has a little bit more wood trim than the one on the right, though the two doors are similar. The one on the right, the one that we'll be looking at today, actually has around the door framing, it's wrapped in sheet metal or aluminum. This other door over here does still have wood going all the way around. You'll notice, and we saw when we arrived for the site visit, that several security cameras here and here, a large light fixture, a security camera up here, something going here, it might just be an electrical box, and a lot of conduit have been run without any HDC approval. So that is not a part of this application today. You may feel free to discuss it if you wish, or simply ask the applicant to file a separate application for that. If this were clearly something that was allowed, it would be a quick thing to just add it to this application, and someone could do that if you wanted to put it into the motion. I don't think this is an easy thing to allow because I don't think it meets the standards and guidelines. And I think that they need to come up with a better plan for this. But that's something that you commissioners should discuss when you get that far. Here's another photo of the door. I don't believe that the transom is original either, though the proportions look the same as the original one. There's a close-up of some of that conduit, light, electrical box, camera. This is the corner where a sign is proposed. It is, what did I say, 3 feet deep by 6 feet tall. And it would be located above this stone band. It's well set away from this window and one that's around the corner. That's obviously a non-original window there that you see. And it's noted that it would be mounted off of 2 arms, corner braces here, and mounted in mortar joints. And here's that corner. Here's what it looks like from the middle of the intersection. You can see there's another storefront farther down here. There's an Aveda sign on the back of the Nichols Arcade building. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Nichols Arcade over here. This is the Maynard Street building that used to be where the McDonald's was. Sorry, that's not very helpful. This is looking west on East William. Next door is Ding Tea. That is a channel letter sign. It is not illuminated. It's not lit. And there aren't really any blade signs or pedestrian scale signs until you get down across the alley further back to Tianchu Chinese. They have 2 new ones. This is a staff approval that I signed off on a few weeks ago to basically infill the space between the 2 NYPD awnings. You'll notice that NYPD was using up pretty much all of the allowed signage for this whole building, for the whole width of the building. And because a new business is moving into the upstairs treehouse and wanted to put their own signs up, NYPD ended up basically painting over the valance here where it said pizza, subs, delivery, whatever, in order to reduce their signage enough to allow this sign to go on the awning and the blade sign if it's approved. Treehouse is a second floor only business on this suite over here on the right on the second floor. The building is in common ownership though. The whole building's owned by one entity. Here's a photo from 1976 showing the older style of doors and older style of transoms. 2 panels, this one is glass, this one does not. That's more likely to be a pre-45 door that you're looking at there, but you can see that already by then, this entire storefront had already been replaced. There's a few remnants. There's a really cool window, large transom window up here of prism glass. It's still there. It's behind this Regency travel billboard. And this corner post is a nice iron corner post with some fluting on the corners. But there's not much detailing left on the first floor. And the entire storefront over here to the east has been replaced as well. So the intent of the new door is to match the existing and provide added security measures for the new occupied space on the second floor, which is to be the new home of a marijuana provisioning center. They do have all of their planning and city council approvals for that use. Assuming that, so this is a drawing showing the new metal door and the existing wood door. It's a little bit misleading because the transom's not being replaced, and this doesn't really say where the steel stops and the wood on the transom begins, but it would have to be right here. I wish that it noted that. There are a few inconsistencies, like this says that this measurement here is 1 3/4 inches, this side of the door framing. It says that it's 2 inches in the supporting paperwork that was provided in the application for what the steel door is going to look like. So it's up to the commission whether this change in materials is appropriate or not. It's not an original door, it's not an original window, it's not original framing, though it is pretty close to what was there before. So really what you're balancing is whether a steel door is appropriate. It's going to look a little different, but it's not going to look extremely different, I don't think. I'm just a little bit concerned that these dimensions might not actually match exactly the way it says that they do. Like here's a 2-inch measurement here, not 1 3/4. But there's a ton of information on the doors if you ever, if you want to take a look in the packet. And new this evening, I have all of the packets open on my computer. So if you want me to point to anything during the discussion, just say, hey, Jill, could you open up the packet for this item and show me that thing about the door hinges or whatever. I've got all 4 of them queued up. Here's the blade sign, 36 by 72. It's just aluminum. It's not illuminated at all. And it has these corner braces here that would come right off of the corner. It's located above the stone band. All right. I did note that the corners of buildings are an appropriate place to install blade signs of this sort. I would never encourage someone to install a sign this large in the middle of a building or in mid-block. It's usually not appropriate, especially if there's other signage on the building. Since this is a corner building, if you guys think that this sign is appropriate, that would be the place to put it. So from the Secretary of the Interior Standards, let me read for you number 1, which says that a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. Number 2 says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. There's number 1 again. Number 6 says deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new feature will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features will be substantiated by documentary and physical evidence. Number 9 says that exterior alterations shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. I have quite a few guidelines. These are from the Secretary of the Interior for storefronts. Recommended is identifying, retaining, and preserving storefronts that are important in defining the overall character, such as display windows, signs, doors, transoms, kick plates, etc. For commercial entries from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate to replace missing original doors with a design that matches the original doors remaining on the building, or with a compatible new design that fits the style and period of the building and the existing opening. Not appropriate is replacing non-original doors with new doors that do not match the building style or that have frosted or decorative glass, that it's not replicating an original door. From the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for storefronts, This is referring to the sign. It's not recommended to use inappropriately scaled signs and logos or other types of signs that obscure, damage, or destroy remaining character-defining features of the historic building. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for signs, appropriate is attaching signage through masonry joints, not masonry units, or through materials that can be easily repaired, such as wood when the signage is removed. Also appropriate is painting signs on window glass or using vinyl decal letters that can be removed without damaging historic materials. Appropriate for signs is installing signage that's subordinate to the overall building composition and mounting signs to fit within the existing architectural features using the shape of the sign to help reinforce horizontal lines of moldings and transoms seen along the street. It's not appropriate to install signs that are too large or that are made from a material that is incompatible or obstructing character-defining features of a historic building with signage. Also not appropriate is installing several signs to advertise a single business and installing signs through brick, stone, or other masonry units in a manner that damages historic materials. This is referring back to the conduit and cameras and light on the front door. Mechanical Systems recommends installing a completely new mechanical system if required for the new use, so that it causes the least alteration possible to the building's floor plan, the exterior elevations, and the least damage to historic building materials. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for mechanical equipment, appropriate is installing mechanical equipment and wiring in a location so it is not visible from a public right-of-way. Also appropriate is attaching mechanical equipment so historic fabric is not damaged or destroyed, and installing mechanical equipment in locations on the roof, rear elevations, or in alleys so they are not visible from the street. I've divided the motion in two here. For your convenience, there's one for the door and one for the sign. If you wanted to, you could combine them both into one, or you can talk about them separately. They do have two separate contractors, so there are different people here to answer questions about the signs than about the door. Thank you. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. The commissioners, John Beeson and Anna Epperson, were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendation?
Hi. Anna, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I can start. That's fine.
Okay.
I guess we'll start with the door. As Ms. Thatcher pointed out, there are a few sort of inconsistencies within the report and within the application. Just trying to think where to start. So the brick mold or the wood trim that is still remaining, that is consistent on the door frame all the way around the transom, that I think is definitely there. And then there's another internal wood door jamb. The door that's called out to be replaced has the steel frame that's 2 inches. I think that would be inset within the existing wood door frame that's covered in the metal. It wasn't 100% clear. I don't think they had figured that out just yet, but I think that's what it's sounding like is going to happen. So it'd be good to get some clarification on that. And then as she stated, the transom is to remain, so that really shouldn't be affected too much. The conduit, I think, as we were looking at, as we said, it's really all over the place. It's pretty overwhelming as far as, that's something that you see right away whenever you walk up to the building. And it was done really haphazardly. Particularly, there's a really large light that was installed right in between the two doors that really kind of takes away from, I think, that is not within the historic character. Again, that's not in the application, but I think those are things to address. And then I guess also thinking about the sign itself, the corner application. The corner application. It seems quite large. We were really trying to find another example within this block of another sign within, mounted on a corner or within that scale. And there is an example that's similar, a little bit down Williams for Aveda, that we didn't, double check the height and everything for it, but it seems narrower than the 36-inch sign. And it's almost is, it's probably just about a foot less than the windows that are on the second floor. I think it's being mounted a little bit lower than that, but it does seem quite large. So, those are sort of the observations that we made on site.
So I would just add that, we have a storefront that unfortunately is not at all what it used to be. There are some remnants of wood being used here and there, but even at the Pizza Depot, it's all been filled in with a metal aluminum storefront. As Commissioner Epperson had pointed out, the conduit is certainly an issue. I think it's worthwhile showing the photographs of that. Again, it was fastened through the masonry, not through the mortar joints. Not a great amount of care was taken in putting that in. And then the light fixture itself that is installed is definitely not part of the character of the area. And although this is all not part of the application, we're trying to, it's something we're going to have to address in some way or another. Then the front door itself, as putting in a bulletproof door, it's unclear how the transition at the transom is going to occur with the wood. There's just a lot of unanswerable things that are just like, we can't tell from this application the exact intent of how they're going to install this door, what portions of it are going to be kept and what portions are going to be removed. And then moving on to the sign itself, as Commissioner Epperson had noted, the blade sign examples, there's not really a lot on this side. On this block, we tried to look around for lots of different signage, and there was certainly a blade sign, but not big corner pieces. And the Evader thing was definitely the nearest one, but it was only probably 24 to 28 inches wide, not the full 36. So the signage itself is quite large for this location and would certainly detract from his character defining features, as does the sign that is mounted at the top of the parapet. I don't know if you could show that photo too, Jill. It's like this banner sign that was temporarily installed about a coming soon, also put up there. I don't see your sharing screen yet, Jill. There we go. That's the one. It was kind of high up, so we really couldn't tell if it was 100% fastened into the mortar joints or just drilled in where they could. That's it. Chairman Hall.
Yes. Thank you. Would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible, and provide your name and address for the record? And do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report? Looks like we have Tom, Sean, and Rob here. So.
Hey, this is Sean Wilder with JS Vig Construction.
Okay. Rob and Tom, do you mind just announcing who you are and who you are?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tom Lasky. I'm with Treehouse 603, one of the owners. And we've got Rob and Sean that are speaking on the technical aspects of what we're achieving tonight.
Great. And Rob, who are you with? You're on mute, Rob.
I was unmuted. There, you got me?
Yeah.
Rob McPherson, Universal Signs, sorry.
Thank you. So do Tom, Sean, or Rob, anyone have anything to add to the report or review committee report?
I begin, I guess, by saying on behalf of ownership that we appreciate the comments that we've received tonight. The goal for the door in general is to replicate as closely as possible exactly the door that is in place now. So we have a high degree of flexibility on the molding size. The transom, we believe, should be included as part of the door, so it has a uniform look and a uniform level of security. That would alleviate eliminate the issue of some of the mullions perhaps not aligning. But the goal is to bring this door up to the level of today's safety and security. It's an older door, but we're going to use every efforts to, almost exactly replicate the look that we have now, right down to using the address numerals along the top. I'd also say that as it relates to the conduit, none of the conduit, those lights were not put up by us. We inherited this. We only are leasing 1,700 square feet on the second floor of the building. The conduit was put up, by someone else besides us, and it looks like it was put up, quite a long time ago. That's an old light fixture. So we did put up the cameras, but I'd note that, the rules and regs indicate that the camera should not be visible to the passersby. The plan that Rob will discuss will identify the fact that the awning sign will cover all of the cameras, so nothing will be visible from the street, and really it will be a streetscape that we think will be safer, secure, more secure, and will maintain the integrity of what you're trying to achieve. And we're happy to help you clean up the conduit. We think it's ugly as well. We're here to add value. So that's kind of our introductory statement. We'll have Rob and Sean provide some technical details as needed.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Tom just discussed with the awning going up, basically the transom, the light, it will be basically in line with NYPD, which would make a more consistent feature on the facade of that building. And so, like to Tom's point, that conduit will be covered up. As far as the blade sign goes, realistically in that location, to put the blade sign anywhere that would interfere with any windows or anything, as you can see in those pictures, there's a large tree out in front of the door. And that location that we picked on the corner there seemed to be the only location that would provide a good benefit for Treehouse to get good advertising and visual, I guess, to passerbys and traffic. Also, that sign is within the city regulations as far as the size, how far it's mounted out, the extension out from the building, et cetera, and the height, the overall height of what's stated in the city guidelines, ordinances, et cetera.
Sean, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so this is Sean with JSVIG. Just one point to add regarding the frame. I know our shop drawings that were included with the application package, it was mentioned that those were shown as a 2-inch wide. Everything will be field verified to match the existing conditions. So, that 2-inch was kind of their standard shop drawing, but the plan is to field measure the existing frame and door and window sizing.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Beeson.
So I think it was Sean that just mentioned that you're going to try and match the frame sizing. So we had noticed on site, you will remember that there was the front piece of metal that was kind of an initial wrap, and then behind that was the actual frame of the door. Are you going to try and match the frame of the door or the frame of the metal, or both?
We're going to try and match the frame of the door. That metal trim piece will stay. When the demolition of the existing frame, if that trim piece, if there's any effect there, that trim piece will go back in as close as it is. The entire trim piece and opening will be repainted as well to match the current white that is out there at this time.
Okay. Next questions.
Jill, staff has a question.
Hey, just for clarification, Tom and Sean, the application photos don't show any of that conduit or cameras or light fixture. And I'm pretty sure Sean said that they just put that up a week or two ago when we were out there on site. So that does seem to be associated. It's new and it's associated with Tom's business. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Jill, that is news to me. We will, we'll certainly work with you to make this have an acceptable look on the outside.
Okay, do any other commissioners have questions? Commissioner Epperson?
Yeah, Ms. Thatcher, will you pull up a picture of the door? I just want to get some final clarification. It was stated, I believe Tom stated that the transom would also be replaced. That was something I think that was that would not be replaced. And just to follow up on Commissioner Beeson's question, there's the larger metal frame that fits in the masonry opening, and then the wood frame that fits inside it. That whole wood frame, I guess, from door threshold all the way up to the underside of that lintel, is that would be coming out. Is that correct? That would be replaced in kind. Is that the intent?
Sean, that's my understanding. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah. So the entire opening, the goal would be to replace it in kind with hollow metal.
I'm sorry, for clarification, was that including the transom or not including the transom?
It will be including the transom.
Okay, that's a little confusing too, because when we were there on site, Sean, you said that the transom would stay. But the drawings do seem to show the whole thing being replaced, which was why we were talking about it on site.
Yeah, and I think at this time to give the opening a uniform look, it will be the entire opening that will be replaced.
So would the transom have bulletproof glass or regular glass? Doesn't really matter as long as it's clear, but just out of curiosity.
I believe the intent is it would be the uniform glass, and it's bulletproof, but it's really, and that's just descriptive. I think it's 1.5 inches thick. It's just security glass, but it would be clear.
Commissioners, if one of you makes a motion to approve this, you might want to include the language that we use on basement windows, which is to keep the face of the transom glass on the same plane as the existing glass, or on the plane that matches the transom next to it, the brown one at 601, something like that. Because if it's 1.5 inches thick, you don't want it, sticking out. It would almost be flush with the framing there.
Do we have any other commissioners with questions for the applicant? I can't see everyone here. So, yes, Commissioner Beeson. Oh, Commissioner Quijano. Sorry, yes.
Okay, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but just for clarification purposes, nothing, door, transom, frame, molding, nothing that exists right now within that masonry opening is to remain? Is that what's being proposed? Everything's being replaced?
Correct. Everything's being replaced to match the existing wood frame door as close as possible with existing field measurements.
Using a hollow metal door system.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rockland.
So, so just backing up then, could you reiterate, I think it's been spoken to, but reiterate and just explain further, because our standards state that if there is existing historic material of a character defining feature, then it should be replaced with the same material. I realize that some of this has been maybe replaced, some of the pieces maybe aren't. So you're asking us to go against the standards in some respect. So it just needs to be really clear, I think, that you have a really good reason for doing that, or maybe we won't allow it. So can you please explain why you want to replace the wood with hollow metal? Thank you.
So the biggest reason for the request is with the new business at this location is for safety and security measures. The existing wood door does have evidence of past break-in attempts. So that's why we're requesting using hollow metal material and smash resistant security bulletproof type glass.
Okay. Anything else to add, or do any other commissioners have questions? Or yep, Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, so I have a question on the sign component with, I guess, towards Tom and Rob directly. So, the blade sign is pretty large for things that we typically see in the historic districts, and the signs down that block tend to be just a simple blade sign hanging from the tenant. You guys are advocating for a larger corner blade sign, which we've certainly approved in many instances. And sometimes they've taken on a big character, replacing ones that are really big. I don't know if there's any evidence that we've ever had a blade sign at this location. Jill, you could probably speak to that. I'm guessing we have not had any evidence of
I've
blade
not seen
signs
any
here.
photos. No, haven't found any photos.
And so, I think in my mind, my opinion would be that we have to kind of follow the guidelines to see how the size, scale, and relationship of it works, and if and how it just detracts from the historic resource. So to me, a sign that is, as proposed, a 36 by 72 or something like that, is pretty big and would detract from the historic characters of the character defining features of the building. So I guess I would just ask the two of you to would you consider a smaller sign, something that would still give you the same corner effect, but would be of smaller size?
Well, speaking on behalf of ownership, as it relates to the door, certainly, our overall goal is to, as I said earlier, to make sure that we replicate the streetscape as closely as possible. We're reusing the materials as that would have been used, 40 years ago now. So we're using hollow metal frame that will replicate the look of the wood on a French door with the transom. As it relates to the sign, we understand and respect your position. We'd look to you for recommendations. I think we're at this point because Rob's done his work. Rob, do you want to speak to size of the sign?
Yeah, basically when we were laying out the sign, with the height that it is, the Aveda sign is a little bit lower. That's down the street, and we thought that if that size, which is within the ordinances of the city, at the height that it is, overall it's 18 square feet total for that sign location, and to get that copy and the layout, that's kind of where we were at 36. We tried it at a little bit skinnier. It just doesn't lay out for ownerships. Basically, it just the way that it is and how we want it to read, it starts to get squeezed and gets really small once it gets up that high. Obviously, in this location, that really is the only spot to put it. We just want to make sure that everything is readable on the sign for Treehouse.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Questions? Commissioner Rockland?
Sorry, it's a question for staff, but I'll just ask it anyway because I'm unmuted. So I'm just curious, is the Aveda sign I think it's Thompson, what's that street? Or Maynard Thompson? Yeah, is that in the historic district or not?
I think it is. Yeah, because I've seen plans in the HTC files for that building.
Yeah.
We just haven't had an application there in the last 15 years.
Right.
But yes,
Okay.
when that building was reconstructed, I think probably 22, 24 years ago, it was approved by the HTC.
Thank you, Jill.
Yeah, Commissioner Fortner.
Yeah, in the photo where the sign is imposed on the photo of the corner, is the sign to scale?
I would say that is fairly close to scale, but I mean I can confirm that. I can't confirm that right now. Typically, when we would do these drawings for layouts, we would try and get that to scale as best as possible. I do know that 190 inches that it shows it above. I think the top of the steel beam / large lintel there that's above the awning, the top of that is around 13 feet. So that 190 inches suggests that scale is pretty close to being correct. But I can confirm that and send that over to Jill.
And I can just add that when we were on site, Commissioner Beeson and I were counting bricks, at the window opening just to kind of get a sense of scale. And I think that window's about 7 feet, a little bit over. So the sign 6 is just about a foot less than the window height. Just for kind of a general sense.
Yeah, I was going to ask you both if you had you're able to gauge that on site. Did you, well, this is more a discussion item, I guess. So I'll hold.
Okay, any other commissioners with comments or questions? All right, I'm seeing none. So we're going to move on to the public portion of this hearing item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 603 East William. Kristen, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers have indicated.
Okay, so we'll move on. Commissioners, do we have any additional questions? We went through them all there, so I'll now close the public hearing portion of the application. The next form of business would be the motion, but staff, maybe you can help me here. Before we make a motion, can we all agree that we will not be including the conduit light conundrum that was noticed on site as part of this motion? Is that appropriate, staff?
I think that's appropriate because that way you'll get in a separate application for that work and they can work with me to try to clean it up and accomplish their goals while we accomplish our goals. And hopefully it'll be something that can end up as a staff approval. If
Right.
not, we'll just bring it back to the next meeting.
Great. So we will not discuss or that any further as part of this application.
Yeah, if anyone has observations other than it's not appropriate for what the reasons that have already been stated, that might be useful, but don't feel obligated. We can get into that with an application.
Right. All commissioners okay with that? Okay, great. Okay, so now would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Rockland. All right,
Okay.
great.
Well, we'll start with the door, I guess.
Great.
Should I start with the door, or should I combine them, or should we? What do you think? Any ideas? I'm going to start with the door.
Start with the door.
Says anything. Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the portion of the application at 603 East William, a contributing property in the East William Historic District, to replace a wood door, frame, and transom with a steel door, frame, and transom in matching dimensions. The transom window shall be flush with the exterior of the adjacent transom window. The work as proposed is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for storefronts and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, 6, and 9, and the guidelines for storefronts and building site.
Support.
Okay, so that was moved by Commissioner Rockland, and there was a second by Commissioner White. So now, do we do another motion? Is that? No, now we discuss this. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, I'm apt to approve the door, mostly because it is replacing like with like the best it can. It's going to try and meet the dimensions. I think the only thing that I'm really hesitant on is that we are still looking at a set of drawings that does not meet the dimensions that we really want it to be. And we don't know exactly where they're installing it in reference to the jam and in reference to the existing metal that's there. So to me, there's still a lot of unanswerables on approving it, mostly because we don't have a complete set of what's going on. You know, it's all been told verbally to us, whereas the application doesn't really indicate all those details.
Commissioner Beeson, I'm sorry, but on my end, I didn't hear your first couple words there, and they were pretty critical to your statement. So do you mind just repeating that, just your first sentence again?
Sure, I was going to say I'm apt to approve the door portion, and then et cetera, et cetera.
Great, that was all. I didn't, that's what I wanted to make sure. Thank you. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Quijano.
Kind of to the point that Commissioner Beeson just made, would it be possible or helpful to have the applicant submit, maybe it becomes part of a staff kind of check or review item once they've been able to field measure the conditions there and verify, you know, a door jam detail or an installation detail showing that what they've been able to verify and that they can actually provide that profile that we're looking for at both the door and the transom to make sure that the glass plane is in line or coplanar with the adjacent door and transom.
I'm sure we can do that, Sean, correct? In fact, I'm sure we'd have to do that as part of the overall installation. So, yes.
So we may have to amend the motion for a conditional approval. Is that right?
Well, let's see. The motion does say that they're going to do this all in matching dimensions, and then I added the part about the transom. Right. So we're only giving them approval to match what's there. But I guess it'd be nice to have the confidence that they're going to do that, although they did say in this meeting that they have that intention. So I suppose if we do feel that closing the loop on all of that would be submitting some further documentation. Let's see, I can add something to the motion. After my previous add of the transom being flush, we can say subject or conditional to approval of the drawings to be provided after measurements have taken place.
Support.
That was amended by Commissioner Rockland and supported by Commissioner White. Jill, are we comfortable with that in terms of, from your perspective?
Yes. So, Sean, I would ask that you either add that onto an existing building permit as an amendment, or if you haven't applied for a permit yet for this door, to include that when you do. Okay?
Okay, we will provide those details.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beeson, since you brought up, are you comfortable with that? Yeah, okay. All right, so I think if we close the loop there, as Commissioner Rockland said, I think I'm comfortable with this application as stated in the motion. Does any other commissioner have any other questions or comments before we move to a vote? Okay, seeing none, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. You will receive a written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning on, it cuts off, work. Sorry, sorry, there it is, your project. Okay, so now we will move on to
Next motion.
next motion. So do we have, let's pop back up here. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application?
Well, I'd be happy to.
Sure, great. Thanks, Commissioner Rockland. I appreciate that.
So the sign now.
Yes.
Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the portion of the application at 603 East William Street, a contributing property in the East William Historic District, to install a second floor blade sign mounted through mortar joints as proposed. This work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for storefronts and signs, and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, and 9, and the guidelines for storefronts and building site.
Support.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Rockland, and there was a second by Commissioner White. So is there discussion on the motion? Commissioner Beeson.
I think based on my line of questioning, the rest of the commissioners are pretty clear on my stance. I think it's too big. And without kind of documenting evidence of signage in that location, or even signage examples in other parts of historic districts being 36 by 72 inches, I'm apt to still look at this and say, well, this is kind of a big sign for this corner, especially one that hasn't been there before. The blade signs that are down the street are, they're all what we expect when we see the small pedestrian-based blade signs. So again, moving it to the corner is certainly not something I have a problem with, to try and push it out and make it a little larger, but having it this size to me is still rather big. The notion that you can't change the text and rearrange the format and layout, I'm not buying that one, mostly because we know that we're all graphic people. We can change these things and make things look good still. So I'm not apt to approve the sign.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeson. I have a follow-up question to you for that. Is strictly a size thing for you? Is that?
Yeah, and mostly the size relates directly to, let me make sure I say this appropriately, for the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, the signs not appropriate, installing signs that are too large or they're made from material that is incompatible with the historic building or district, and then not appropriate installing You know, basically it's an incompatibility of the sign of the size.
I tend to
Yano, yeah.
be in agreement with Commissioner Beeson's comments and review of the sign size. I mean, maybe as well as the proportion of it. You know, it seems quite like it would be quite heavy hanging off the corner of the building. While I support the idea of the corner placement of the sign, it seems that it would be incompatible proportion-wise as well. I guess size, just reading the Ann Arbor guidelines at that location. And a follow-up question for either Commissioner Beeson or Epperson. You took note of an estimate of the height of the windows nearby, but did you try to gauge the width of those windows at all? Just trying to, it's probably wider than 3 feet, but just trying to better understand that rendering.
I think did we try and look at the actual opening, Anna? I can't remember. I think
No.
we looked at the height.
Yeah, just the height. I mean, the overall masonry opening is quite large. The casements that are up there as replacements are, you know, probably a little bit wider, and I would guess around 4 feet or so. That's just a guess.
You can get a good idea too on the storefront door, the door on the NYPD at the corner. You know, that typically is 3 feet. So that gives you an idea of the scale.
Right. Yeah, that would be
3 feet is wide. It's a big, wide sign.
Yeah, and the Aveda sign that we keep referencing further down Maynard block, I'm sure is a much more vertical proportion.
It is.
Which is more to be expected.
And if I could just add to Commissioner Beeson and Commissioner Quijano's points, I am also in agreement with most of what Commissioner Beeson said. And looking at, you know, what is appropriate for signage. One of the last things, installing signage that is subordinate to the overall building composition. I think the fact that this is a corner building and it's a corner entry with a prominent corner post, and then the sign is going to go on the corner as well. I think its height and its width is starting to play into that overall building composition, which is, I think, one of the largest things that I'm reacting to. So it doesn't seem appropriate in that sense.
Commissioner Epperson, would you mind just expanding a little bit, because I think your point is excellent. Is it regardless of the size on the corner that you're objecting to, or the size of the sign on the corner?
I think it's a little bit of combination of both. I would say it's more so the size. I do think that, you know, I wouldn't have such an issue with it being on the corner if it were maybe not coming directly out on the corner, but maybe just installed on one facade of that corner. So if it was on the Maynard Street side or the William Street side, I'd be a little bit more inclined to support it. But I still think the sign itself is quite large, especially the depth, the 36-inch, and it's, you know, it's a pretty open corner. You can see that. So I understand the desire to put it where they're saying, and with all the other trees that are around, and there really isn't any space to put a blade scale sign at the typical height that we would see. But I do think overall it's quite large.
Thank you. Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, I'll follow up. I think, Anna, are you referencing the Hanover Historic District Design Guidelines for signs under appropriate? Is that where you got that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it is good to read off the placing signs to align with others along the commercial block face. Is the key language that's used in that guideline.
Any other commissioners with comments for discussion? I'm not seeing any at the moment. I'm wondering, Jill, it seems to be most of the commissioners are objecting to the size, especially. Is there a way that staff could approve a smaller sign?
The only way I could do that is if you guys agree on a dimension.
I see.
Really, signs these days, I can't look at the content or the colors
Yeah.
unless they're like fluorescent or lit up or something. So really, it's just all dimensions and the way that it's mounted on a wall. That's all I can look at.
So really, their options would be they could come back with a smaller proposal, and we
Yes.
would not vote on this now. Is that correct?
Well,
Or we would vote on it and
you could either, you've got a motion on the floor, you could either vote on it, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't pass, they could reapply.
Yeah.
Or you could postpone it and ask for a revised sign. Either way, you'd be likely to see it back next month.
right. But if we postpone, it saves them the hassle of reapplying and so on. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So I would throw out that we would postpone and they would come back with a new design next month if other commissioners support me on that.
I support you.
Yes.
Okay. So we will postpone the sign portion of this application of F1.
And then Commissioner Hall, I think we should also relay specifically to the owner and the designers here about what we're looking for as a resubmission, size and placement.
Right. That's a very good point. So we're looking for a sign that is smaller, and that's pretty clear. But I think the placement, I think we went a couple different comments there that it's a little unclear, and they probably are looking for better guidance from us on that. And that's a difficult one because I'm not sure what would be the answer to that is. Does any commissioner have any thoughts on guidance for the applicant?
I have a quick question if I could for a second.
Absolutely, Rob.
So Anna and Commissioner Epperson and Commissioner Beeson, when you're talking about what you stated in the ordinance for the historical district about signage being consistent with the rest of the signage on the building, is that close to what you confirmed, Commissioner Beeson, what Commissioner Epperson had said? Do you recall that?
Yeah, so I could read it aloud again. Basically, there's a portion of it that says what is appropriate for signs, and it says placing signs to align with others along the commercial block face. So how that gets interpreted.
Okay, so that's what I was asking. Is that for that building? Is that for the block? Is that?
Yeah, so I guess it really depends on what you guys interpret, on that too, and then make your position, and then we try and say that as a commission we all have individual perspectives on that. So my perspective would be that you pick a side, pretty much like what Commissioner Epperson mentioned. You pick a side and you make sure that it's perpendicular to that side, and that way it follows all the same signs on that block visually. Others have thoughts?
Commissioner Rockland.
Yeah, I'll make a comment. This probably isn't helpful at all, but this is what I'm thinking. The blade sign on the corner is confusing. It's not your typical pedestrian sign that tells you that it signifies where the door to your business is. And that's what we're used to seeing. Typically, a blade sign, it's above the door, you walk in right there. This is like an advertisement for a location for a business. And that's why it needs the address on it, because what you would expect to see there is a sign for NYPD. The door is at the corner, the sign's at the corner, that all sort of makes sense. But the door at the corner is NYPD and the sign at the corner is for the business that's on East William, one storefront away. So that is confusing, and that's not really an architectural comment. But maybe on this building, there isn't the place for this type of sign. And you're choosing to put a awning with signage where you might have a sign, but because of the tree and because of where the door is and all those things, it just doesn't make sense to have a blade sign in this location. And since you haven't found the good location for it, you needed to make it bigger and put it in a sort of an awkward spot. So yeah, those are my comments.
The idea behind the blade sign at that particular location was to identify the fact that we were going to be around the corner, right? I mean, there's the main parking structure. So the blade sign in this instance is done on a kind of an oblique angle from the building, as you pointed out, in an effort to kind of narrow the focus to that particular location from both streets. It is a narrow storefront, and as you pointed out, there are trees that are obscuring really any other signage of any meaning other than the awning in front of the building.
Which, Tom, to your point, I mean, when that tree is in full leaf bloom, like in that picture, that awning is covered up quite a bit as well.
Right.
It just is a difficult location for the sign because you don't necessarily want to go between the windows. If you're following me on William Street, and if you're, I think that we can work with it being basically perpendicular to the wall on either side. I can discuss that with Tom. We can go over that and go over some design concepts, and then if this is tabled until next month, which sounds like that's the only thing that could happen right now, we can go that route.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rob. Do any other commissioners have anything else to add? Okay, so that'll close hearing. Oh, sorry, Jill.
Commissioner Rockland, would you please move to postpone this to the December 10 Historic District Commission meeting? And Commissioner White, would you please support it? And then you guys should vote, and that'll move it to next month.
Sorry. Yep. Thank you.
Am I unmuted? Yes, I move to postpone the sign portion of this hearing to the upcoming next month's meeting.
Support.
Okay, so that was moved by Commissioner Rockland to move the sign portion of this hearing to the December 2020 HDC, and it was seconded by Commissioner White. So that'll close this portion.
We have to vote on it or no?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Or do we have to discuss too?
Oh, we could.
Don't forget that.
Okay, is there any discussion items? Any discussion on this? No, we've discussed. Okay, so now we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Okay, this motion will be discussed at the next month's HDC meeting. Now we'll move on to hearing F2 at 309 South Main Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
All right. 309 South Main Street is in the Main Street Historic District. Three-story building constructed in 1866. The original first floor tenant was Fred Gross Clothing, and in 1916, the front of the building was altered to what you see here. I have a laundry list in the staff report of work that's been done to the building. The most recent was that in August of 2020, the HDC approved an alternate storefront on this building. So most of what you see here was approved sort of after the fact. There were errors in the original application, though, on the size of this sign band area. It represented this raised panel as having a foot in between the two raised courses of brick, and it doesn't. It has a few inches. So there's no way that you could fit a sign in there. the way that it was originally proposed and approved. So we have a new application to put a new different sign up here above the storefront, and there's also a pedestrian sign proposed here on the right side closest to the doors. So here's the way the storefront looks now as it was approved. You can see that there are a number of pedestrian signs working their way down the street here, and they go in the other direction too. There's a Jolly Pumpkin. Farther down is Carol Rhoda, which is a little different because it's underneath a fixed canopy. Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't give you the drawings here. I'm gonna switch my screen over to the application. Bear with me for one moment here, folks. Man, it's not going to do it. It worked on my trial run before the meeting. Oh, I know why. It's on the wrong screen. You're going to drag it over.
I just saw something.
Yeah, I had to. I'm working on two screens, and for some reason it will only share if it's on the right-hand screen. There we go. Can you see that? All right. Okay, this is the way it was approved with a 1 foot by 10 foot sign. There's actually 5.3 inches in there. So this is the new proposal. It's an aluminum panel with halo lit letters. And then there's also a pedestrian scale sign that meets the size requirements with an arm on the top with two little spotlights, one on either side. The pedestrian sign is 1 foot 10 by 2 foot 6 by 3 inches along the edge. And the wall mounted sign is designed to fit within the band between the top of the storefront and below the stone course. And it will be mounted through mortar joints in a way that will keep it off of the brick course so that it doesn't interfere with it. It's pretty straightforward. Staff believes that the sign is appropriate, meets the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, the Secretary of the Interior Standards, and the guidelines, which I'm going to jump back now to the PowerPoint to read to you. All right, I have read number 2 and number 10 to you already. The Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for storefronts, it's not recommended to introduce a new design that's incompatible or to use inappropriately scaled signs and logos or other types of signs that obscure, damage, or destroy character-defining features. I don't believe that this sign does that. And from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate to attach signage through masonry joints, not masonry units. Also appropriate to install signage that's subordinate to the overall building composition, and to mount signs to fit within existing architectural features using the shape of the sign to help reinforce the horizontal lines of moldings and transoms seen along the street. And to also appropriate to light the signage from external light fixtures above or below the sign, and to place signs to align with others along the commercial block face. So staff does recommend approval of both of these new signs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners Beeson and Epperson were on the review committee. Could you please give us your report and recommendation?
I guess we'll go. Do you want me to go?
Sure,
this
go ahead.
time? All right, I'll go this time. This one's a typical Main Street application with signage. So it's fairly straightforward. We have a lot of band pedestrian signs along the street already that we were able to kind of reference, and we were able to kind of look at the band sign location and go, oh yeah, well, that brick is definitely much more narrow than they thought. And so the fact that they're trying to add a new band sign on top, as it's kind of shown on the elevations, seems like it would work really well with especially the signage that's there. There wasn't a whole lot of, I didn't pay attention to this, and maybe Commissioner Epperson may have some comments too on this, but I didn't pay attention to a lot of the lights on that street of blade signs. I didn't notice a lot of lights on them, but this one is certainly proposed to have one. And there is a street light right in front of the building. It's offset a little bit from the entry door, but it is right there, and it's a fairly significant light. That's it for me.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add. I did not notice the lights on blade signs along the rest of the block. Looking at one of the photos in the application itself, it looks like there may be one on the M-Den. It looks like it's more of a building light just above Jolly Pumpkin's blade sign. I don't think it's unusual. Jolly Pumpkin's sign or building sign has, our favorite gooseneck fixtures lighting their sign. And again, this is within the sign band. I get it's a little bit higher than some, but lower than others. So I think it fits right within. It's appropriately placed below the sill band. The applicant did state on site that they would be feeding any electricity from the inside, and they'd be careful to go through mortar joints and get through to not damage any of the brick or new materials that are on the facade. So again, I think this is pretty straightforward. I don't think I have anything else to add.
Great, thank you. Now, would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video, and provide your name and address for the record. Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report? I'm seeing Dan and Mark have joined us.
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Mark.
Yes, yes. Hey, Mark.
Okay. I wish, I could get the video to work here. My laptop took a dive as soon as this one started, and I'm on my phone, but you don't need to see me. You just need to see our beautiful new signs, hopefully. So this is Mark Melkai. I'm with Multiverse Investments. We will be doing the renovations to this building, which is currently vacant, and we feel that the signage we propose is appropriate, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Dan, are you with us? I'm seeing Dan, but I'm not hearing Dan, so.
I am here.
Okay, hey, Dan.
Hi, how are you? I'm just, obviously Mark is going through the application process for this, and we're just on the call just to hear what's going on. That's all.
Great. All right, commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Beeson.
So this is for Dan and for Mark, I guess. There is a page in the application that indicates decals being placed. I was wondering if you could talk about that. Is that, well, I guess it says previously approved 1x10 foot sign, and it was on an old rendering showing the old tenant sign above, and there's some decals that are shown in the window. And I wanted to check to see if there's still plans for those decals.
I had not noticed that on the previous application. This is Mark, but at this time we don't have any plans to continue on with the decals. Do those fall under the Historic District Commission if we were to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other commissioners with?
Well,
Commissioner Rockland.
Commissioner Beeson, those were like an original proposal as a solution because of the work was done without the permit and there was no transom line
Oh, that's right.
in
They
the
were adding-
windows. And the proposal was to do decals there instead. But if you see the current photos show more of a bar looking thing.
Oh yeah, there's like a bar in there now.
Right,
The
that
transom
shows
is
the
in.
transom line.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
I had a
Commissioner
question.
Rockland.
Okay, so typically on these signs, we'll see an exterior mounted electrical box, like a junction box. And we asked that those are put on the application, and I'm not sure, I didn't see it, but are you intending to put a exterior mounted junction box? And if so, where are you putting it?
So our previous, our experience with these types of signs is that we like to hide that information. Jill did ask me about that, which we kind of covered in our on-site meeting. The building is vacant and we have access to the space behind the signs. So we would propose to put the power supply and the transformer for the LED lighting inside the building and poke through. There's an example of that down the street at 350 South Main. Some signs that we did there. That's not in the district, but we were able to put all the electrical gobbledygook inside the building, and that's what we'd like to do. So,
sounds great.
Mhm. Any other commissioners? Not seeing any. Okay, so we'll move on to the, this is the public hearing portion of this application. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes on the application at 309 South Main Street. Kristen, any callers on the line?
No callers have indicated.
Okay, no callers indicated. We'll move on to any additional questions from the commissioners? Staff, Ms. Thatcher.
Commissioner Hall, just to clarify, there are two people in the queue. One is a caller and one is someone named Scott, and I'm not sure what application he's here for. So would you just repeat how you raise your hand?
Yes, sorry. Yep, I did skip over that because I've read it several times, but I'll read it. Let's see, this is, they've obviously called in. So entering meeting ID pound 96313116300. This information is also displayed on the meeting agenda and the video feed. In order to electronically raise your hand after dialing into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone. That was the critical piece of information, I think. Kristen, do we have, is Scott raising his hand?
All right, caller ending in 008.
Here he is, or she. Here, oh, they've stepped in and stepped out. That was. We give them another chance here.
I don't see them anymore. Jill, do you see that caller as an attendee who's able to speak?
No, I don't. The caller seems to have hung up when they got promoted.
It's interesting.
They come back
Can we
in.
reopen the public meeting if they call back? Or?
Yeah, if they call back, we'll let them.
If they call back, we'll find a way to fit them in.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
We're good?
Yes.
Kristen? Okay. Any other additional questions, commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I will now close the public hearing portion of the application. Is there a commissioner that'd like to make a motion? Commissioner Fortner.
Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 309 South Main Street, a contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to install a new 17-inch by 12-inch wall sign and a 2-foot by 6-inch by 1-foot by 10-inch by 3 inches pedestrian scale sign as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District guidelines for signs and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for storefronts.
Support.
Okay, so that was moved by Commissioner Fortner, and there was a second by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Beeson.
I'm just going to point out that the light fixtures themselves are actually quite small. They're only like 4 inches by 3 inches, so pretty teeny. I doubt we'll even see them, except when they're lit.
Great point. Seems very straightforward. And are we ready for a vote? Unless any other commissioners have a, no? Okay. So we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. Okay, this motion carries. Your application has been approved. You will receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning on your project.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Beeson, were you trying to get my attention there? No, I saw a hand. I'm sorry, out of the corner of my eye. All right, so we're going to go to hearing F3 at 313 South 7th Street. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
.313 South 7th Street is in the Old West Side Historic District. It's a 1 3/4 story gable fronter that features a 1 3/4 story cross gable on the south side, a full width wraparound front porch with turn posts and spindle work, and the original house block has a stone foundation. The property is on the east side of South 7th Street, south of West Washington and north of West Liberty, and the applicant is seeking HTC approval to install a solar array of black-on-black panels on the south-facing roof of the south-facing roof of the house and on the garage. So there's a section of the roof here on the front of the house that's proposed to have black-on-black panels. There's another one behind this gable that you can't see, and then finally on the roof of the garage, here's the area behind that cross gable where panels are proposed. This is the back of the house. And then we have the garage, which is proposed to be nearly entirely covered with black-on-black panels. This just shows the location of the existing meters and things, and this is the general vicinity of where the meters for the solar would be installed. They're not quite sure yet, but probably on the back here. But they did say that it would be on the back of the house, so this will most likely. Here's a roof plan showing 6 panels here, 8 panels here, and a bunch of panels back on the garage. And you can see where the meter and the service panel and the AC disconnect are all located here on the back of the house that I just showed you. The drawings are very clear, showing exactly where on the roof the panels would be located and the distance from the edges and the ridge. Let's see, this is the let's see, this building, let's see, this is the easterly portion of the roof that you would not see from the street. And this is the westerly portion where 6 panels are proposed. There's a lot of information in the packet that I'm happy to pull up if anybody wants to see any of it on connections and the racking detail, the panels themselves. I did not include all of that in here, but from the Secretary of the Interior standards, numbers 2, 9, and 10 best apply, and I've already read all of those to you. From the Secretary of Interior guidelines for roofs, it's recommended to install mechanical and service equipment on the roof, such as air conditioning transformers or solar collectors when required for the new use, if they're inconspicuous from the public, oh, that said the wrong word, right of way. The Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for solar panels say it's appropriate to mount solar panels at grade or on ground pole mountings. In the absence of an appropriate ground-based mounting location, panels should be mounted on side or rear facing roof surfaces. It's also appropriate to install mechanical and service equipment on the roof related to the solar units so that they are inconspicuous from the public right-of-way and do not damage or obscure character-defining features. and for sloped-roof installations to install solar panels parallel to and within 8 inches of the roof surface, which this did adhere to. It's not appropriate to mount solar panels and their related devices on primary elevations or roofs that face the primary elevation, or in planes that are highly visible from the street view. This location has the highest impact on the historic character of the building, and all other options should be thoroughly explored. All right, run back up here. I didn't have a whole lot in the way of staff findings. It's a total of 32 panels. Only the 6 panels closest to the street should be visible from the street or sidewalk. Black modules with black framing are appropriately proposed. They are consistently one color. They are a little bit different color than the roof. We often see these going in on dark roofs with dark panels. This is more of a brown roof, but it is a dark brown. And staff believes that the materials and design are compatible with the existing structure, neighboring buildings, and the surrounding historic district, and meet the Secretary of the Interior's standards and the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioners Beeson and Epperson were on the review committee. Will you please give us your report and recommendations?
Pretty straightforward application. I don't think there are any other solar installations within this block. I forgot to look. But yeah, it's fairly inconspicuous. You won't be able to see very much except in that one location up front. And even still with the dark framing, you know, it'll be what it is. It'll be solar panels on the roof. Pretty slick.
Commissioner Epperson, do you have anything else to add? I think you're on mute. Yeah. Commissioner Epperson may be having some technical difficulties. Yes. Okay. Well, we'll assume that Commissioner Beeson covered it pretty well. Yeah. Okay. Great. So would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible, and provide your name and address for the record. Do you have anything to add to the staff report? Sorry, Nathan.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, so nice to meet everybody. I'm Nathan with Distributed Power. Address for the record could be 2415 Burdett Avenue in Ferndale. You guys, I think, covered most of it. We are flexible with those 6 panels on the front of the house. You know, would love to keep those there, maximize energy production, and just get the most out of the roof space up there. If there are concerns about that section of panels being visible from the street, you know, that is something that both ourselves and the customer are aware, you know, might need to be changed after review and whatnot. So if that's no problem, we'd love to keep them there. If you guys would like to see those go, we're happy to remove those. One thing that's not mentioned in that site plan is the conduit run that would connect those 2 groupings of panels on the house. We plan to use what's called a Solideck, which will allow us to run that conduit underneath the roof face in the attic. So you would not see any conduit from the outside, from the street, up to that point. Now on that easterly roof face, when you're getting to that very east edge of the panels, there is going to be a small bit of conduit that runs off those maybe last 2 or 3 feet of that roof face before it comes down on the back of the house. But I think that part of the roof isn't visible from the street getting towards the back of the house, and it'll be a pretty short conduit run there.
Thanks, Nathan. Do we have any commissioners have questions? I am not seeing any. Just before we close this portion, though, it looks like we have someone else who's joined us on the line. Scott, are you there? I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
seeing.
yeah. I'm the owner of 313. I'm just sitting here watching.
Okay, great. Thanks, Scott. So we don't have any further questions. Let's open up the public hearing for this item. Do we have any callers, Kristen?
No callers.
Okay. And I'll now close, unless any other commissioners have any last minute thoughts? No? Okay, we'll close the public portion of the application. Is there a commissioner that'd like to make a motion? Commissioner Quijano, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me zoom in here. All right. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 313 South 7th Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to install a black-on-black solar array on the south-facing roof as proposed. There are other roofs, aren't there?
There's the garage roof.
Yeah, let me just pull up that site plan again. The garage roof and well, I guess it's both south, front and rear portion of the south facing roof.
You could just put an S on the end of roof, on the roofs, as proposed.
As proposed. Thank you. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for roofs, energy efficiency, and mechanical systems, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, particularly as they pertain to solar installations.
Support.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Quijano with the motion and Commissioner White with the second. Is there a discussion on the motion? Commissioner Epperson, you're back with.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah, great. Yes.
Sorry, my screen froze up there for a little bit. Just to kind of reiterate what's already been stated, I think the application is really straightforward. You won't be able to see any of the panels except for what's on the south portion in the front of the house, and those are pretty minimal. I think overall this was a really nice application as far as the layout of the panels, locations, and detailing, so that's really appreciated. As well as the conduit run on the interior of the house, especially where there's going to be panels that are in a more prominent location. So I just wanted to emphasize that part.
Thank you for adding that. Any other commissioners with comments? Commissioner Rockland.
Sure. I'll just state that, this house, let's see, it's got looks like a 12-12 roof, very steep roof. It's close to the sidewalk, and it's like a 1.5 story, not a 2-story house. So I think that and it's got a lot of great character defining features that are existing. And so I think that certainly the solar panels that we'll see on the front will be, it'll be quite a juxtaposition between what you're seeing there now and then with the solar panels. You'll see a real modern intervention. That being said, I think that what's being proposed meets the standards. So it seems like, to me, it just would be up to the owner. If that's what they want, then they've met the standards, and I support this project. I think what's going for them in the other direction, in the positive direction, I guess, in terms of compatibility, is that the front panels is just that nice rectangular shape, and they're black on black. So, the solar panels themselves, and I guess the conduit being hidden. So, the installation itself is going to be clean, and won't draw so much attention to itself, although just the fact that it's being there will have an interesting juxtaposition, I think, from the sidewalk as you're walking there from the south. But like I said before, I think it meets the standards.
Commissioner Rockland. Any other comments or discussion items? Not seeing any. I'd like to go to a vote here. Are we ready for a vote? Just making sure.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. You will receive a written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning on your project. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
You bet. All right, so let's move on to hearing F4 at 614 South Ashley Street. Commissioner Thatcher, or sorry, Ms. Thatcher, would you please give the staff report?
All right, 614 South Ashley is the 1913 DeWitt and May Ellsworth house. Features 1.5 story, a gambrel roof, full width front porch, and a rusticated concrete block foundation. Mr. Ellsworth was a machinist at A.V. Rothwell. House is on the west side of South Ashley between West Mosley and West Madison, a few doors down from the Washtenaw Dairy. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to construct a second-story addition over parking at the rear of the house. So this is the house in the front, and you can see the driveway that's there on the left. It is a shared driveway with that house on the left to the south of it. Hang on, all right. And there's the driveway again, and the house to the south of it. This is the north side of the house. There's a ramp, a handicap accessible ramp that goes into the rear of the building. Right now that's proposed to stay, but you should just take note of that. The second floor is an apartment. I'm not sure if it's habitable right now, but it's laid out as an apartment. The first floor is office space. They're not really separate units. I think you can go from one into the other, but the owner of the property wishes to, it's his office space downstairs, and he's not in Ann Arbor year round, wants to finish the upstairs so that he can, when he pops in to visit his business, he can stay upstairs or use it as his second home. This is the back. You can see this ramp that was built. This was put on a few years ago. Since it is a business and office on the first floor, they're required to have an accessible entrance. That's proposed to stay right there. And this is the backyard. It's just all pavement. There's a fence behind where I'm standing. And there's parking for a few cars. I think you'll see another car in a minute. So the proposal is to put the addition off of only the second floor and to leave car parking alongside, right where this car is now, alongside the ramp, and then another one under a deck. But we will get to that shortly. The building right now has aluminum or vinyl siding over something, but what it's over, we do not know at this time. This is the building to the north. You can see that it has a rear addition, first floor addition, but it would be a similar extension into the backyard. These are the houses to the south. This one has a two-story deck. This house a few years ago had a second floor addition approved, and I think that the first floor was open, but the owners opted instead to basically redo their plans and put in only a deck. So there is a two-story structure here. Also, this house is quite a bit deeper than these houses alongside of it. So I'm really not too concerned about effects on the neighbors by this work. There are complete floor plans in the application. I've included only the second floor plan because that's the most important one here. You see the existing house, and there's a lower connector here to get you into a new kitchen and living room off the back. It has a largish deck, 16'3" by 9'7" off the back of that. The parking, the handicap ramp is proposed to stay right underneath this this entry part, and then there's one parking space under the new addition and one parking space under the new deck. There's a lot of good detail on materials and windows. The house does have mostly wood windows, though the exterior casings are wrapped in aluminum. The siding proposed is LP Smart Side engineered wood, lap siding. There's roofing materials. This is the entry door that really won't be visible from the street, but it's a pretty simple design. Anderson A series windows are proposed to be used. I believe that those are clad wood. Here's the proposed north elevation on the bottom and the existing on the top. You can see the ramp stays. Just the awning goes away back there, which wasn't original. And these piers are put in to hold up the addition and the deck. This is the entry door, which is slightly recessed. This is a stair, an all metal stair. And I'll have to check and see if I have more design information on what that stair will look like. That once discussion starts, I will pull up and show to you. This is the front. You can see that there's an existing little dormer over here. It's probably a bathroom on the second floor. And you can see how the new work, which is a hipped roof, would sort of emulate that. If you're looking straight on from the front, it's a little bit higher than that existing dormer. Here's that little dormer. And you can see that the design has a hip or a pyramid roof on the back portion, and then it's connected with this lower section. The ridge here, the top of this roof, is a couple inches shorter than the ridge of the main house. And here is the rear elevation. This window and this small window are the architectural features that would be sacrificed for the connection to the house. And the back is a pretty simple design, just sliders and a deck or doors. So this project has a longer road ahead of it than most. Because it's zoned commercial, C2B, it will require a site plan. And because there's landscape buffer requirements that can't be met because this shared driveway over here, it'll also have to get a zoning variance. The site plan will require 3 parking spaces. This is the existing conditions. You can see the ramp and the footprint of the house. This is the new proposal for the site plan. So after the HCC, if the application is approved, they would need to go to probably City Planning Commission next, and the City Planning, and then the Zoning Board of Appeals for any landscape variances that are required, and then to City Council to get a site plan approved. This application shows that asphalt all remaining. There's a good possibility that the Planning Commission will insist that the bits that aren't being parked upon will be removed, but that's good. That's desirable. So should that happen, it wouldn't require a petition to come back to you guys to remove non-original asphalt. And there's a strange brick strip back here. I have no idea why. And there's a fence dividing the property at the back here. Just want to point out that the house currently has no post-1944 additions. Everything that you see is the original mass of the house. It is 924 square feet on a 564 square foot foundation. The application proposes to add to the footprint of the building by 51% and the floor area by 31%. So from the Secretary of Interior's standards, once again, number 2, 9, and 10 are the most applicable, and I have read those to you. From the guidelines for additions, it's recommended to construct a new addition so that there's the least possible loss of historic materials, so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. Also, to locate the attached exterior addition at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building, limiting its size and scale, and designing new additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. Also recommended is considering the attached exterior addition both in terms of the new use and the appearance of other buildings in the historic district or neighborhood. Design for the new work may be contemporary or may reference design motifs from the historic building. It's not recommended to design a new addition so that its size and scale in relation to the historic building are out of proportion, thus diminishing the historic character. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for all additions, it's appropriate to locate a rear addition on the least character-defining elevation and keeping it subordinate in volume to the historic building, and to place a new addition on a non-character-defining or inconspicuous elevation and limit the size and scale in relation to the historic property. It's also appropriate to separate a larger addition from the primary historic structure and link it with a smaller connecting structure, which is what this does, and to place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure in a subordinate position to the historic fabric, which this also accomplishes quite nicely. So this engineered wood lap siding is proposed. It's certainly compatible with the existing aluminum siding. The architect can speak to this more when it's her turn, but the underlying siding is unknown, and there may be some desire by the owner to take this off. And originally that they were thinking to reclad it in matching engineered wood siding, but I explained that no, first you would have to see if you can reuse what's underneath there, if there is something underneath there. It may be that the wood siding is, if it's there, is destroyed because there is an insulation board between the aluminum and the old wood. Don't know how that was attached, if it was glued, if it was nailed, if it's just resting there. And how much damage would be found when this is taken off. But so that's a question for a later application. But I do think that just simple lap siding is appropriate here, because that's really not going to be incompatible with about any siding that you would find in the Old West Side. It's probably lap under here. There could be some shingles. It would go with either one. That, I believe, concludes staff's comments. And let's see, the character defining features of this house are on the 1.5-story main block. And none of the existing visible features would be changed or compromised. The new addition will be moderately visible from the sidewalk. The height of the addition is appropriate, and staff believes the work meets the standards and guidelines. It's a little bit unusual to have just a second floor addition, but I do think that it works okay. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioners Beeson and Epperson were on the review committee. Would you please give us your report and recommendation?
Sure. So I agree with Ms. Thatcher's report. I think overall this application fits within the guidelines. I think, as you stated at the end there, the unusual nature, I think, is just the second floor addition itself, which may initially seem to kind of throw off the massing and the scale a little bit, but I think it's actually really light how it touches the existing structure and really doesn't modify it very much at all, especially from the character defining features. If the say the dormer that's to be installed on the opposite roof on the driveway side is set further back for the rear of the house, which I think is certainly appropriate, and actually helps, I think, maybe conceal the rest of the addition and the roof structure of the addition a little bit. Just kind of getting a gauge from the site in the back. There's a house about, I don't know, 3 or 4 houses to the south that has quite a large addition. So if we're just kind of comparing with neighboring structures, so I think this would fall within the range of the depth of that addition. The deck that Ms. Thatcher mentioned, that's just a couple houses down, has that, second story elevated feel. And I think we were just trying to gauge too on site, where the deck would end. The site plan gave a good indication there was a tree. The deck kind of, and I don't know if you can pull up some photos from the site visit itself, just to get a general sense of scale. Maybe go toward the back. Yeah, so that there's a parking space just to the left. I don't know if you have one that looks a little bit further toward the left of the grid. Yeah. You can't really see it in this view, but that tree is just off of the page here. The deck would end right about with the tree, and then the addition itself is just about right where just over that car. So it really kind of just encompasses that little bit of space, just to kind of get an idea of how things are sitting on the site. But I think overall it meets the guideline. Commissioner Beeson.
I think you covered it pretty well there. I'm all set.
Okay, great. The applicant, please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible, and provide your name and address for the record. Do you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee report? Looks like we have Lynette here. No, we don't. We're on mute. Seeing you talk, but we can't hear you. Maybe some technical assistance here.
Technical support.
I had 3 of these issues just today.
Mm-hmm.
I had to restart my computer twice. Wonderful.
Ms. Thatcher, I assume we need to hold and wait for this to get resolved. Is that correct?
Yeah, just hang on for a minute. If
Yeah.
Lynette disappears, we'll just wait for her to come back and we'll re-promote her if she needs to log out and back on.
Right, yeah.
You know, actually, Commissioner Hall, you could hold the public hearing if you wanted because there's no one in the queue waiting for it. Get that bit out of the way.
Get that out of the way. Yeah, let's skip over to D, opening the public hearing portion of this item at 614 South Ashley Street. Kristen, do we have anyone in the queue?
No callers.
No callers. Okay, so that we've checked that off the list. We'll just hold for a minute here. Yeah.
Jill, I have a question in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting application with being raised up on piers. And one of our metrics in the standards is called footprint. But can you just, what does footprint mean in this, for this application?
It's still all footprint, the structure portion of it, the room. Basically, we count footprint as if you're looking down from the sky, that part that is blocking the earth is footprint. I wouldn't count that deck necessarily as footprint.
Right.
Because we don't count decks and porches. And I don't think that they did. I think that that's why the two percentages were different. But yeah, it's pretty much roof surface.
Thank you for that clarification.
This is a first.
Ms. Thatcher, what do we do if they do not join us?
Well, it's okay. Then you would just keep going and yep, have somebody could make a motion and start your discussion. And if she comes back, then you can, basically reopen the public hearing for her to be able to.
Should we give them one more minute here? Or should we just go ahead and do that? Or is that my call?
I think that's your call.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead here and close the public hearing portion of the application. And I'd like to see if there's a commissioner that would like to make a motion. Commissioner Rockland, where's yours?
Just hold on one moment, please. Let me bring it up. Okay. I move the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 614 South Ashley, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a second-story addition over parking at the rear of the house. The proposed work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the surrounding resources and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for additions and new construction, and the Secretary of the Interior Standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. In particular, standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for district neighborhood, building site, new additions, and windows.
Support.
Okay, so that was moved by Commissioner Rockland and then supported by Commissioner White. Is there a discussion on the motion?
Guys, if Lynette doesn't make it back in and you have outstanding questions, you can always just postpone the application. But you probably should just try to have your discussion and see where it goes.
Okay, so Commissioner Beeson, it looks like you have a comment.
Yeah, I guess this is under the City of Ann Arbor Design Guidelines. All new construction, where it says not appropriate, and it says introducing a new feature that is visually incompatible with or that destroys the patterns of the site or of the district. And so one could argue that not having it, you know, like a base first floor would produce a visual incompatibility with the neighborhood. So I'm still trying to focus a little bit on that. I'm just kind of highlighting it. I think by and large, the whole rest of the guidelines still comply with this. We're not introducing new construction, which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, and relationship, but it is kind of different in the way that the building masses are set up differently with this big opening underneath. So I'd like to hear more from others.
Well, maybe you could just, since you were there and did a full walk around,
yeah,
how much of it would you see?
Well, from the front street, I don't think you'd see very much. I think from the corner of the driveway, you'd be able to see that kind of last part of the deck kind of sticking out the end of it. Mm-hmm. I think you'd have to walk down the driveway in order to kind of see it. But there goes the cat again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah, this is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, by and large, I'll look to Commissioner Epperson as well. Do you remember what you would see coming down the driveway? I don't think you'd see very much.
Yeah, I don't think you would see very much. It's pretty narrow drive. It's pretty deep. You would probably see the back corner of the deck and the house up above, but maybe a pier or so. But I don't think you'd see much. You'd have to be in a precise location, I think, to see that. And on the other side, again, it's pretty narrow between the houses. There's the deck. The existing ramp already sticks out. You would see the staircase going up to the second floor. That would be visible.
Yeah, you definitely
certainly.
But
yeah, certainly though, the addition, you'd have to be, you know, in a right spot to see.
Yeah,
it is going to make it seem deeper and longer, certainly. And it is a large open space back behind the house and neighboring houses.
You know, so let's say it is partially visible. You know, how does that effectively change how there's a relationship, a visual incompatibility on massing on that first floor? You know, how much does that?
Well, that's why I asked how much you really see it, because if you could see the whole thing, I would say, yeah, yeah. Sorry, Ms. Thatcher. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lynette's back. We've got a caller, so I'm going to let her in, and hopefully it's her.
Okay.
Caller who ends in 152, is that you, Lynette? You are still muted.
What does she have to say doesn't she have to type in something on mute?
I don't seem to be able to unmute her.
*7, I think, to unmute.
What is it?
Try pressing *7.
Lynette, did you hear that? Press *7 and see if it unmutes you. Kristen, any other advice?
Oh, why it's not working.
Okay.
We'll just continue on while you guys troubleshoot Lynette, if that's okay.
Yep.
I guess I have one question. If we could pull, can you see it from, would it be first? Looking through, like I remember looking at one of those pictures. Yeah, like could you see it from back there?
I think you'd kind of be able to see it there, especially if you moved over. If you
there, that was the picture I was thinking of. But there's,
No, there you would not see it.
No.
From the other side, you would.
Yeah.
I had a
Commissioner Rock.
oh.
Sorry, go ahead. Commissioner Hano, go ahead.
Sorry, I had a similar thought earlier, Commissioner Hall, when we were kind of waiting. And I pulled up Google Street View and dropped my person on first, and it plopped me between I don't know the number, let's see, between 617, there's like a blue house directly behind. We probably see the rear of that blue house in this view here. And from the street view, you get a clear shot between the blue house and what appears to be that red house. It looks green in the front from First Street. So I see that roof line, that distinct roof line of the applicant's.
Are you able to share your screen? Can you do that or no?
I don't know if I can do that.
I don't know. There's a button down here that says share screen on mine, but I'm just.
Yeah, we don't give you guys the.
We don't have access.
You're not allowed. Do you want me to pull up Street View from that side?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it.
Keeping in mind that the Street View cameras are unnaturally high.
Yeah, they're on the roof of the car.
That's a great point.
So.
Yeah. Maybe that's not a good road to go.
But you are able to see the fence, that we see here in Jill's.
I'll work on that for a second while you guys carry on.
So I think it would be somewhat visible. I don't know how, I was trying to think how often we discuss this point of view here. Which, I don't know, it doesn't seem like we do that too often, but.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of read from another portion. So this is the guidelines for additions, limiting the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic building so that it does not diminish or visually overpower the building or the district. The addition should neither exceed half of the original building size, et cetera, et cetera. So the part that's really talking about does not diminish or visually overpower the building. And I kind of, it's weird to me, like something that's up on stilts may in fact cause a visual discrepancy to the massing of the building. Like it causes a visual overpowering solely because it's elevated from the rest of it. So part of me is also like, well, this is tucked away. It's not really visual. No one really see it. But by its nature of being up on stilts, I think it does attract this kind of differentiation of visually overpowering. Oddly enough.
And Commissioner Rockland, maybe you could help me. I'm thinking of a precedent. And Commissioner Beeson, I know you've been there because we went on a site visit there. Is it on 2nd Street and Jefferson, like one house in? Commissioner Rockland, can you help me? Do you know which project or house I'm talking about? No, it's third, sorry.
You need to Google Street View of this too.
I'm not sure what house you're talking about, Evan.
I'm talking about the red house. Commissioner Beeson's been there with me before for a site visit. I thought it had like a big thing on stilts in the back too.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to remember that too.
It's right next to the red house, one south of the project that Grayson Pond did. Doesn't that have a big stilted thing in the back or no?
I'm not sure which project you're talking about, Evan, but
Okay.
I can think of 3 or 4.
Yeah, we've had them before, right?
additions. This one's
Yeah.
just a little bigger than most.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
deeper. It's deeper than average.
I think too, having the deck beyond it adds more piers and makes it seem even larger.
So this is that Google Street View that Commissioner.
Yeah, there it is.
About. And yeah, so the roof line will be here. You'll sort of between the fence and the additions get a peek at the original first floor window here. Though again, pedestrians and drivers are going to be several feet below this.
Right.
But yeah, you'll see it for a second between these buildings.
But maybe you won't perceive the posts so much. You'll just think it's a 2-story addition or something. Because that fence, and your eye will be lower.
Well, you can kind of see right now where there's like small little porch overhang off to the little bit of the right, where there's those white verticals. And that would basically be the floor of the new space running across the back of that building.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm still trying to think about this one. It's not like we've had applications that have large portions of it up on stilts like this. So I'm really trying to use the guidelines as my kind of tool.
I think something else to consider just within the guidelines sort of is just the best use of space. And, this is not a residential section necessarily. It's sort of mixed, right? So it's commercial businesses mixed with residences. And because of that, and because of the zoning, the parking that's required, and just because of, business in general, having an office, there's parking required, I suppose differently than a residence, or you would just, if it was a single family home, let's say, existing, the parking would be a different situation. And I just wonder if because of the parking requirements, this is just, if you want to expand, this is really the only way to do it. And I wonder if this is, by approving this, we're just using the space that's available there really well. Or are we approving it and saying that, well, this is what everyone else is going to do, so that you can have parking and an addition? I'm not really sure which way to come down on that.
Thatcher.
Mr. Chair, would you like to reopen the public hearing and give the argument a chance?
Yeah, that was my next. Lynette, you're with us now, correct?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So what we're going to do is,
so sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. If you could state your name and address for the record, and then if you have anything to add to the staff report or review committee.
So my name is Lynette Williams. My address is 2793 Manchester Road, Ann Arbor, Michigan, 48104. I could hear most of what you guys were saying. I had to cut out for a second to switch to a different device. So I don't have a lot to add. I would say that Commissioner Rockland, I guess I would piggyback off of what he just said, in that because the client would like to add some resident space to this building, and we have to comply with ADA and make sure that we have parking, he's exactly right. This is the only way that we'll be able to get a little bit of additional space for residents, a small residence for the owner to be able to be here, once a week out of every month or so. So that's sort of the important part of, I think, what, we're trying to achieve.
Thank you, Lynette. Do we have any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Rockland.
I had noticed that the piers weren't showing up on the site plan that was at the very end of the packet. And I was wondering if, are the concrete piers, are those in fact part of the design? And if they are, by putting them on the site plan, does it impact the site plan in any way, or are they sort of implied on that site plan drawing?
They're implied on the site plan drawing. I think the idea is to try and make the structure, the footprint structure as minimal as possible.
And so just so I can visualize it, like how tall are they like 18-inch concrete tubes?
They are 12-inch concrete tubes with some, metal posts.
Okay. And how high is the concrete above grade?
I think the concrete above grade would be, ideally, we'd like to have it less than 2 feet.
Okay.
All right. Any other commissioners with questions? I'm not seeing any. So, Lynette, do you have anything else to add before we close this portion of the application?
I don't think so. I think, like I said, I missed a little bit of the commission's comments, and I appreciate the comments that I did hear. I would just say that, our intent was to try and make this a structure that allows the client to live there, but, does not diminish the historic aspect of the building or the facade. So we really tried to keep it in the back and try and keep it as minimal as possible while also achieving, we're only adding 289 square feet. So we're trying to make the most use of that space as possible.
Great, thank you. So we've done the public portion. Now we're going to go back to the discussion of the motion. Yes, Commissioner Quijano.
I'm sorry, I was trying to scroll through the drawings and I've got a little lag on my end. But did we talk about, or was it mentioned in the application, what the new stair and railing looks like, or the construction? I was trying to find
Yeah,
that
hold
here.
that thought. Lynette sent it to me and I didn't put it in the slideshow, so let me pull it up.
Okay.
We'll get back to it in 1 minute.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. While Ms. Thatcher does that, do we have any further discussion? Yep, Commissioner Epperson.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back to a little bit about what we were talking about with the overall, I guess, site and massing. I'm looking at building site guideline, district or neighborhood setting, recommended identifying, retaining, preserving buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining its overall historic character. Features can include driveways, walkways, lighting, fencing, signs, benches, etc. So I guess, there's some hesitancy about the overall, I think, massing and location on the site, but I guess I would push back a little bit and say, what are the character defining features of this particular site in this area that would be of importance that this would impact?
Excellent point, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Beeson.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that too. So there is from the City of Ann Arbor design guidelines, the guidelines for additions under not appropriate, third item down, constructing an addition that significantly changes the portion of built mass to open space on the individual site. So that's certainly what might be occurring a little bit here, but I think what Commissioner Epperson really highlighted here is, it's the character defining features that we're really trying to focus in on here. And does it diminish or visually overpower the building as it stands? So, you know, I think the scale and relationship of it was intended to have a hyphen to it to kind of differentiate it from the historic structure. It's also diminished in size in terms of its roof line. It's not the same roof line as the actual historic structure. You know, so I think by and large, I think it does follow the guidelines. It does have this kind of quirk to it about, you know, what does putting it up on stilts and changing its mass and void components to it play out in terms of this relationship to the property. I'm apt to kind of say, you know, for the most part, this is following the guidelines.
Well said, Commissioner Beeson. Commissioner Rockland. Yes.
Just thinking through this, you know, if it was a garage on the first floor with a, you know, an overhead door and cars pulling in, you know, it's not the function that's the issue. It's like a solid void sort of issue. Because I mean, I think this application does an incredible job fitting so many functions into this backyard. It's sort of incredible with the ramp, and the parking is just sliding in between all the piers, and then the deck and the addition. But I suppose that it's very helpful that you're reading those straight from the standards, so we can keep reflecting back to that, because I agree that from a differentiation standpoint, this application is very straightforward. But from a compatibility standpoint, that's where it's just raising questions. And Anna, could you just repeat that what you read, because that was a good one to hear. I'd like to hear it again.
Yeah. So building site recommended identifying, retaining, and preserving buildings and their features, as well as features of the site that are important in defining its overall historic character. Site features can include driveways, walkways, lighting, fencing, signs, benches, fountains. There's a whole list of things. There's one other line below that, retaining the historic relationship between buildings, landscape, and open space. So I guess the importance, I think, is, you know, there is some landscape, open space compatibility, but also overall historic character. Is there something that's being defined by the overall historic character on the site or any of its site features?
Commissioner Beeson?
Yeah, so I scrolled further up, and so even within the Secretary of Interior guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings under new additions, it does talk about, you know, this to me is an addition, and we're adding a portion onto the back of the building. And when you look at what's recommended in there, it kind of follows each and every single one of those, like designing in a new addition in a manner that makes clear what's historic and what is new, locate the attached exterior addition on the rear or an inconspicuous side, limited scale and size in relationship to the historic building. You know, all that seems to match pretty well.
Yeah, I would say it hits all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I support the project.
Okay, Commissioner White supports it. Ms. Thatcher, did you have the image that you were going to show us?
Yeah, I've got that stair detail. Let me show it to you. So it's a steel staircase with a steel railing and these very thin cables, sort of modeled after the neighbor's porch, second floor porch, where you don't really see the cables at all. And it has treads and treks on the deck. It's obviously a different structure, but that's the desired design. You know, hopefully by using steel instead of wood on those guardrails, they can sort of make as invisible as possible those features.
Thank you for sharing that.
Great, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Do we have any other commissioners that would like to add anything to the discussion? I can't see all of you right now. So. I don't think anyone else has anything else to say. I appreciate Commissioner Beeson with his last statement there, because I think it really hits all those. And I don't really have anything else to add. Does any others? Should we move to a vote? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved, and you'll receive written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning work on your project.
Thank you, Commission.
Yeah, thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we'll move on to G, new business. It's a historic marker at 210 South Main Street. Let's see, Ms. Thatcher, would you please give us the staff report? Here we go. We're on mute.
Unmute, unmute, unmute. This is pretty straightforward. It's an application for a historic marker at 210 South Main Street, which is the center portion of this building. It's formerly the Peaceable Kingdom, was the previous occupant, and now Underground Sounds, another solid local retailer, has moved into this space. It meets the criteria for a historic plaque because the building is more than 50 years old. It was actually constructed in 1860 as a saloon for George Lutz. The building must have been maintained over time in its original condition or undergone historically appropriate restoration or rehabilitation. This isn't an original storefront, but it certainly mimics one. It even has, it even has a retractable awning that they still use, roll it in, roll it out in the morning, roll it back in at night, which is a really cool thing in downtown. This building, at one point I saw a picture, had this false slate roof thing that went all the way across at least to here. And thankfully it's been removed and only remains on one of the three portions of the building. The building may not have historically inappropriate features, enclosures, or repairs, and the principal facades from the public right-of-way must maintain integrity of form, materials, and architectural features. So the one tough thing about this application is it's the owner of the middle unit, this building within a building, that's applying for a marker. This is in separate ownership, and this is in a third separate ownership. So typically we have a marker for an entire building, but I don't think that it's inappropriate in this case because the address would only be for 210 South Main Street. It would not be for 208 or 212, and the name on the plaque would likely be George F. Lutz Saloon, or if I can find the actual name of the saloon, it might be that instead. And then someday, if these other ownership units clean up their act and put on a lovely storefront and maybe lose this giant blade sign that's been there forever, maybe they too could have their own plaques for their unit, their address with their original occupant. I love to reward good behavior, and certainly this portion of this building is a great testament to what the historic building might have looked like. I don't know what this building looked like with a cornice. That's really the only thing that's missing there. But I do really appreciate that they've kept the arch-topped windows, and they even have the arches within the windows on this center unit. And everything is correctly proportioned up top here. So staff does recommend approval. Oh, and I suggested that the plaque read George F. Lutz Saloon, 1860, as the occupant on the plaque. And there's a sample motion at the bottom of that page. That's it. It's a great building.
Do any commissioners have any additional questions? I do. Did the saloon, was it the whole length of what you see in that picture? It was only in the 210.
Yep.
Great.
Which I think also kind of helps support the idea that it doesn't, in this case, it doesn't have to be the whole block, right?
Right.
Because it was only that one establishment, and right now it's only that one. So.
Right on. All right. So I'm not seeing any other comments here. Is there a commissioner that would like to make a motion on this?
Make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner White.
I move that the 1860 commercial building at 210 South Main Street meets the criteria for the City of Ann Arbor Historic Building Marker based on the age, historic, and architectural significance and contribution to the history of Ann Arbor.
Second.
Okay, the motion was by Commissioner White and the second was by Commissioner Beeson. Is there discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. So we will move to a vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. The motion carried. Your application has been approved. You will receive a written notice from staff. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning work on your project. We'll now move to H, minutes. Minutes of the October 8th, 2020 HDC meeting.
There are not minutes, unfortunately. I think Mia did them, but they have to be amended. So she's going to give those to you next month.
Okay, so we're going to move on to I, reports from commissioners. Would any commissioners like to share something with the commission?
More just a question,
Commissioner
maybe.
Quijano.
But I don't know how many people were aware that the Senate had a hearing today, or they were supposed to have a hearing today on the state historic tax credit. But I don't know the outcome or how the discussion went. And I was wondering if anyone else knew. All right.
I'm not seeing any action on that front, so
yeah,
I have to do some homework.
It's nice to hear that that was going to finally be voted in the committee. So
yeah.
it was presented to the House or the Senate and they passed it. But yeah, let's find out.
Yeah.
When I get something, some of you will get it too, but if I get something from the state or MHPN, I will be sure to forward it to the commission.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little curious. It's been quiet on the Hopkins Burns front. I don't know.
Yeah, I would think you'd have your ear to the ground on that one.
Yeah, it's been a little hot lately,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other commissioners with reports for the commission? All right. We'll now move on to J1, assignments. Review committee will be on Monday, November 9th at noon. For the December, no.
That should be December.
December 9.
December 7 at noon for the December 10 HDC meeting.
Yes. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, that's December 10 for the December 11th. What is it? Sorry.
Monday, December 7.
Monday, December 7.
For the Thursday, December 10 HDC meeting.
Thursday, December 10th. Yeah. Do we have any volunteers? I cannot do that one. So yeah, Commissioner Beeson is volunteering. He's in.
Only because I know it's going to be sunny and 70 degrees again.
Right.
Okay.
Here? Or somewhere else?
Somewhere.
Yeah. I do not know if I'm going to have to travel for work again.
Sounds like Commissioner Quijano's in. So then we'll.
No, I don't know if I'm available. Sorry, was that not clear?
No. You're coming in clear.
Am I coming in clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So any other commissioners? Unfortunately, I cannot do that one. So.
I'm a maybe. I need to check. It's unclear in the calendar, but it's a possibility. So if everyone else is a no, and we've got one yes, you can put me down for a possibility, and then I'll let you know ASAP, Joe.
Sounds like we have a plan on that front. All right. Thank you, Commissioners Beeson and Rockland.
Sorry, is that a noon or a 5 or a
Noon?
Noon, okay.
We're
Said
back,
noon
to,
on
we're
the
back to
thing.
noon for the winter.
Okay.
Let's move on to K1, reports from staff. The October 2020 HDC staff activities report is attached. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Thatcher? Ms. Thatcher, would you like to speak about the annual HDC elections?
Yeah, so we had a nominating committee consisting of Commissioner White, and I would love to hear a report from his committee on who they think the next slate of officers should be. And it would be great if you guys would do a brief discussion and vote on that tonight.
Okay. Commissioner White, the floor is yours.
I think you're muted, Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm muted.
It's okay.
It's the same people that are in their positions now who are just going to vote for them again. And I think it's chair is Evan Hall, and I think vice chair is Anna Epperson, and secretary is David Rochen. Isn't that right? Is that the position they're in now?
That is correct.
Well, we'll just nominate them. Is there support?
Second.
Okay, that was seconded by Commissioner Beeson. Is there any discussion on the topic? I don't know. Is that a motion? That's a motion, right?
That's a motion, but I think
yeah, that's a motion. Yep.
That's
All right.
I think they should continue their excellent and outstanding work, and by our staff member, Jill Thatcher, is also doing excellent, outstanding work. We'll continue forward and keep an open mind.
Thank you, Commissioner White, for your vote of confidence in our leadership group. Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Quijano.
I would just like to say that I agree. I think the officers have been doing a great job, and when needed, filling in, understanding that everyone's schedules are varied. But, you know, do the three of you feel comfortable in that? Are you?
Thank you for asking that. I am comfortable as long as Commissioner Epperson and Commissioner Rockland are, because they know that I have to miss sometimes, and they've done a wonderful job filling in for me, and I know we'll continue to do so if they're comfortable.
Yes, I'm comfortable with that. Totally understand their schedule obligations, and I'm happy to fill in as needed.
Great.
The
Thank
system,
you.
I think, has been working.
Yeah. Commissioner Rockland, anything to add?
Nothing at all.
Okay, great. So I guess we'll vote on this motion. All those
without objection, it passes.
Okay, without objection, but we will vote, right?
No vote.
No vote. Okay.
We accept. We just accept the nominations.
I see. We accept the nominations. Thank you for your fine work, Commissioner White, on the
Thank you.
committee. All right, so we'll move on to L, concerns of commissioners. Are there any concerns? I'm not seeing any concerns at the moment. So we'll move on to M1, communication. Ms. Thatcher, is there any communications to the commission?
Nope. Nothing.
Nothing. So that means that all we have left is N, adjournment. This concludes the November 12th, 2020 Historic District Commission meeting for the city of Ann Arbor.
All right.
Good job,
Thank you, everybody.
Nice.